Hi, I'm Sonia Luna, CEO and founder of Aviva Spectrum. My guest today is Chief Ethics Officer of HealthNet, Bruce Anderson. Welcome, Bruce.
Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, I'm excited. I know we met actually back in D.C., and I'm really excited to have you on our show today to discuss what some people would call an evergreen topic, but I think it's a timely topic of ethics. And we've listened to our audience. I asked actually a question on Twitter, and we received some great questions from our followers. So I wanted to get started with some of those questions. So what is the most effective way an organization can gather and use data to predict compliance risks?
So this is a really great question, and it hits to the core of what compliance and ethics professionals do. So you're really looking at the effectiveness here, the efficiency of your program. It's our gold standard, and it's actually pretty hard to ascertain. But I have a model that I use, so I'd like to share that with you and your listeners. It'll take a few minutes, but I think it's worth it. So first of all, let's define our realm of compliance activities. So for this discussion, I'd like to limit our focus to compliance with the laws and regulations that govern the business you're in. So let's say if you're a doctor's office, it would be the laws pertaining to delivery of medical services to patients. Or if you operate a mine, it would be the laws and regulations for mining. So outside of the scope, just for this discussion, is compliance with labor laws, with tax compliance, for example, or workplace safety. All those are foundational. They're baseline for every employer, for all businesses. But right now, let's just focus on the laws and regulations that govern the products and services that you sell. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it makes perfect sense.
Great. So first, we need to build a foundation. So I'm a very visual person, so I like to think of it as a map. So build a complete map of all of your legal and regulatory requirements, right? So look at laws, look at statutes at the federal level, the state level, the local level. And then once you've mapped that out, then approach litigation for your industry, look at corporate integrity agreements, look at deferred prosecution agreements. Those are great ways to know what regulators are focused on. If they're finding problems with competitors or other businesses, they're probably going to ask you those kinds of questions, so you need to be prepared. So you can map out all of these different aspects of, what your program should be addressing. And then once you've done that, then you can trace your activities. So, what are you doing to meet each of those requirements? And again, map those out in a way that, you can follow a line straight from the requirement to what it is that you're doing about it. Then after that, I like to develop metrics. So you're going to use metrics to track, trend, and report on regular intervals. So you'll see how are our operations doing on each of these key measures, right? So let's say, using an example, if you're in the doctor's office, for new patients, you need to provide them with access to your privacy policies. So you could develop a metric that measures this, right? So you have a signed form. You could audit that against your roster of new patients, for example, and say, well, did I hit 100%? If not, why not? And then drive to, how you can get there. And you could even go further with like a post-engagement survey, after the patient has left the office, and ask them questions related to this, so you could kind of understand a little bit more around the process. So I recommend metrics for absolutely everything, right? So I think in business school in the first hour they teach, you can only manage what you measure, right? So we have to measure, we have to have metrics so that we can understand what's going on. But also regulators will ask you for these, right? So the day will come when a regulator reaches out and says, hey, I need to know what's going on in this area. And if you start developing metrics at that point, you're really in trouble, right? Because they expect that we are doing this work continually, that we're monitoring, so that when they come in and ask for information, we're able to give it to them. And, actually, once I had a 45-minute turnaround time from a regulator for data that I didn't necessarily have at my fingertips. And, it was a stress test. She wanted to see, well, how are we doing, right? And so I had 45 minutes to give her a report, and I did my best in 45 minutes, and then I gave her a better report like in 4 hours. Sometimes they do stress tests too. Yeah, so you have to be ready for it. Okay, so a couple more steps to get to effectiveness, and we're going to get to answer the question soon. I'm just building up to it. So we have all these metrics, and we're going to need to now analyze them to understand what's going on, and in particular, look at outliers, right? So with an outlier, drive down to your single root cause for the variance, and then for all of your outliers, so in the model I use, we conduct a risk assessment, right? So the model that I use looks at a number of areas or aspects of the risk, right? So we look at the likelihood of occurrence. So if it's an outlier in a metric, it means it did occur, right? The magnitude of the risk, so usually this is in dollars or maybe reputational risk. How is the risk mitigated by management controls, right? Is the risk increasing? Is it decreasing? Is it staying the same? And then finally, looking at the velocity of the risk. How fast is it increasing, for example? So based on all that, then, we ask people to provide us with a management action plan, or sometimes it's called a corrective action plan, and then we report on those in our governance meetings. So if you have a big company, it may be part of a separate compliance committee. If you're a smaller organization, it may be just meetings with your CEO or with your board or audit committee, just depending on what your structure is. So in summary, I think the way you predict your risks are know your compliance requirements, constantly monitor operations, identify your outliers, listen to tips, then conduct a risk assessment on every outlier or tip, drive to management action plans, right, and rinse and repeat.
So it's a very, the beginning part of the process is more of a macro view, right, that map that you were describing and putting together, okay, what's really truly in scope. And then aligning, as you said, those activities that are relevant to meeting that in-scope requirement, and then following through on any outliers and coming up with a metric system that says these outliers are anomalies. We need to get to the bottom of it, and therefore we have either a management action plan or a CAP report, a corrective action plan, but regardless, it sets the tone. I mean, that's what I'm kind of getting the feeling is, people respect what you inspect. And if they find out you're inspecting on these anomalies, they know that by default that even though it's an outlier activity or an issue, especially when you have subsidiaries or remote locations, they know they're going to get called on it versus I wonder if I'm going to get called on it and provide a response to this incident. They know it's going to happen, and it actually sets the tone for the entire organization, especially at the subsidiary level. And I think it's extremely comprehensive what you're describing. And I wanted to get into a different kind of topic because compliance seems sometimes like a cost center, right? It's that vacuum of the budget that goes towards we only do it because, the federal law requires it or the state law requires it, et cetera. But there's got to be more to that. Are there any competitive advantages, Bruce, that you've seen in an organization that can get, when you're implementing it and you get, like, let's say the best of breed ethics program? Are there really any competitive advantages that you've seen in practice?
I think there are a number of competitive advantages, and it's actually a really interesting dynamic and an interesting process and something I just love, which is probably why I do it, right? Because it's so interesting to me. But I think there are a number of them. But let me start with just one word, which is knowledge. And that probably sounds counterintuitive, like we all think, I know what my business is about, right? So why do I need more knowledge? But in organizations, we always need people to be bringing information and knowledge forward to us, and people won't do that unless a couple of things are in place, right? So in your best of breed program, a couple of things. So one is proper incentives need to be in place. The next is there needs to be a firm policy of no retaliation for reports in good faith. And actually, most people are afraid of the social retaliation and not the professional retaliation. And the third is the employee knows that somebody's going to do something about their report, right? If they bring something forward, it means something, and, it'll be investigated, and there'll be some kind of an outcome based on that. So when you have that dynamic, so people are are pushing information up the chain, basically, then you're able to get closer to an objective truth that you can base your decisions on. And in essence, it's kind of just giving you more reality, even if it's unvarnished or contradictory or, it may be ambiguous, right, because life is like that, right? But that way we've got more information that we can actually work with and make better decisions. And then people are more likely to follow and support, be engaged, because they participated in helping you have a more complete, if not more complex, understanding of the environment. So I think by having that deep knowledge that hits closer to truth, increases the trust both ways, right? So management is trusting the information, trusting people to bring forward information. And it may not always be great information. It may not always be something that's accurate or correct, but at least they're bringing it forward so you can evaluate that, have the opportunity to do that. And also another advantage is it helps you to detect problems early and prevent bigger problems. So we think of that old saying that every big problem is once a small problem. If you've got a robust program where people are engaged and they're bringing information forward, then you have an opportunity to address something before it becomes a really big problem, right? So that's something I know as a manager I always want, hey, let's deal with it early on, right, and not when it's a big problem. And then I think most importantly is an advantage of a best-of-breed ethics program is a focus on optimal profits. So making a point here, I'm underscoring optimal in the air here, right? Optimal profits, not maximum profits, because when people pursue a goal of maximum profits, it means they're going to get profit by any mean that they can, right? And eventually that's going to catch up with you, right? Especially today in our very interconnected world, right? We're going to find out somebody is, do something through deceit or outright, misinformation, and there'll be a backlash against that. But for all of us to be successful, and as we're more interconnected, it's we know what makes a vendor profitable. We know what makes a customer want to come to us, and that they, it's a good deal for everybody. So it's optimal profits for everyone. So I think at the very end, that's what your best-of-breed ethics program can produce for you.
I just want to tell our listeners that I really love this interview, Bruce, and I really am confident our listeners gained a lot of value about this, business ethics and compliance risks. I want to tell our listeners, don't forget to register for Bruce's upcoming conference. We're going to have links on our website at avivaspectrum.com. And again, thank you, Bruce, for being on our radio show today.
Oh, it's been my absolute pleasure. Thanks so much, Sonia.
Well, this is Sonia Luna, CEO and founder of Aviva Spectrum, signing off.